The first one, the car accident. What picture is that? That's a picture that Natalie Marie Bollinger sent me after attempting to kill herself because I was not in Virginia fast enough. Was it literally because I wasn't in Virginia fast enough? No, it's because her family was driving her fucking nuts. Driving her completely fucking crazy. Treating her like shit. Ugh. When she told me if I wasn't already on the road, that she was going to kill herself. That was the aftermath of that phone call. I was afraid that when she let me know what happened, I was afraid that she'd gotten into the accident trying to message me back. But like you guys got to see today, Natalie did in fact think she was in love with me. All of the people that I've been able to convince to read the messages between Natalie Bollinger and I. They all come to the same conclusion. They're all certain Natalie thought she was in love with me. Some of them outright told me I was an idiot for not getting it. But Sean, you should have understood that she was in love with you and she had certain expectations. You probably made her feel like she was nothing. I mean, here she was, she had a crush on you. She thought she was in love with you since she was 14 years old, and here she is, she's a grown-ass adult trying to throw herself at you, showing you the best side of her, being the best person that she could be. One of the ladies that was looking at it, that was explaining that to me, she said, you see, Sean, right here, you are being the best human being that you can possibly be to Natalie right there. You are being the best friend anybody could possibly have, Sean. You are being the perfect man. You are being the man that every woman would be in love with. Absolutely, Sean. It's not that you're trying to lead her on, but look at her perspective. Look at her perspective. Look at her perspective. Here you were, her trusted adult. But she expected more. And me, as a man, I should have known that and understood it and walked away. But also, Mandy understood, just as a few other people understood, as a man, you don't get to walk away. Mandy has explained how she's helped to destroy men's lives because they walked away. How she destroyed her ex-husband's life because her parents wanted her to do certain things. Meanwhile, one of her predators was her stepdad. Mandy Singer definitely spoke up about that. Yes, Natalie thought she was in love with me. She typed I love you to me quite often, frequently. Her sister as well. The first picture there, that was several hours, depending on how many hours it is between Chapel, Nebraska and Virginia. She ran her car into a telephone pole, possibly within a few minutes of messaging me or calling me. This is after her making me promise that if she went to Virginia and she was staying in Virginia, that I was going to come visit her. And me and Maddie tried. I've shown you messages today between Natalie and I that show that, yes, we did indeed plan the trip. She was aware it was happening. She was excited about it. That's not what she tried playing off afterwards, is it? She tried playing it off that she was being stalked. You don't stop to look at how afraid I was with the situation, how much of a risk that I took to save Natalie's life, to protect her from her predators, to let her know that someone did in fact love her dearly, in the right way. Her mother was not up to the task. Her father was not up to the task. Tim Beeson was not up to the task. Loving someone right has nothing to do with sex. Matter of fact, it's my firm belief that if sex is involved, it cannot be love. Sure, the act of procreating is important. Without it, we do not advance as a species. We do not get to continue as a species. However, when you have well, let's use a common saying. It was love at first sight. At first sight. How many of you women are told of many, many different countries? There was a woman who was talking about how her Russian mother is talking. She just introduced her boyfriend, and her Russian mother is saying, "Oh, well, he's so cute. You'll have cute babies. When are you going to have a baby? When are you getting married? When do I get to be a grandma?" They also showing it's a boyfriend that the mom doesn't like. Do you want your mother's approval or not your mother's approval? Do you go with what your mother says or what somebody else says? Natalie Bollinger wanted to listen to her predators because they were more familiar to her. For me, I was this fantasy in her head, this fantasy guy who... I was mean! I wasn't fucking nice to those kids, I was mean. I tried to run them off. We all did. Why are you hanging out down there with the homeless? That makes it bad for all the homeless. It makes it worse when you're hanging out with the pedophiles and the drug addicts. That makes it worse for all of us. Well, what are you doing about it? Nothing. You're telling us we got to go to the back of the bus. We need to fight for women's issues. You mean all of this censorship, Facebook, YouTube, that censors specifically males? Where feminist groups get on and try to destroy everything, calling it spam. Anybody who defends a male is attacked vigorously by these groups and by these individuals within these groups. But we're not allowed to blame the whole group. We're not allowed to say what it is. We're not allowed to say it like it is. What are these groups? Are these women's rights groups? No. These are men's hate groups. Where you use things that happened 200 years ago as an excuse to harm men today. Things that never happened to you. You want to push this oppression stuff from years ago in the United States, and you want to claim that this is a United States only thing. Or slavery is only against blacks and it was only ever in the United States. Are you fucking kidding me? For the longest time, your slaves would have been whoever was the closest to your village because you were on foot. Egyptian cavalry, they didn't have cavalry back in the day. You know why? No horses you could ride. Instead, you strapped the equivalent of donkeys to your chariot. Very special zebras, very small, or small horses. We had to breed them to the size that they are today. It used to be all horses were about the size of ponies or smaller. I only say that because I've seen some pretty big ponies. All right, so that first picture there, that's Natalie Bollinger when I wasn't there fast enough going to Virginia. That's what happened when I wasn't there fast enough. When I wasn't there fast enough. Imagine how much pressure it put on me. That she put her whole life in my hands. Her decisions of life and death were based on what I did. If her family drove her nuts and I wasn't there fast enough, and they were pushing her to suicide, and I wasn't there fast enough, you know how horrible that is? How horrible that feels. And as a man, every woman can do this. You push a man to the point that he wants his life to end. And then you victimize him for wanting his life to end. And you don't see this as a horrible thing. The second picture is Caitlin Tatum. I've known her over a decade. Well over a decade. I met her a long time ago. She was an employee at the Starbucks on the Pearl Street Mall. She worked with Miss Bobby. She worked with Tom. She started working there right after Aaron killed himself. I've had a lot of my loved ones kill themselves. You know, the reason that I started escorting the ladies out to dump the garbage cans, part of the reason that there weren't as many police calls at the Starbucks while I was there is because I was very good at being diplomatic, at remaining calm. And I knew that the people who worked at that Starbucks would back me up if anybody tried to harm me, and I would back them up if anybody tried to harm them. And that I was very good at doing so peacefully and convincing people that were drunk or fucked up on drugs to go. Even if it meant that I had to pack up my stuff and walk out with them and go hang out with them for an hour or two until they passed out or came down. But why did I start escorting the ladies there? It's because Aaron, the guy that killed himself, he was big. He was probably, I want to say he was about 6'7" or 6'8". He was a very tall man. He used to hunch over so he didn't look as tall. And because he was big, when somebody had to kick out the homeless, they'd use him to do it. Well, people don't like being intimidated. And that's the reason that people sent Aaron to do it. He was very big and he was a man. So it was his job to kick out hobos, and they were going to kill him one day. Cornered him over by the trash cans and were telling him they was going to stab him. So every time that somebody from the Starbucks went out after that, I went out with them to make sure that they were safe. I also held the door open for people. I thought to myself, you know, if I only treat people the way that I want to be treated. No, what that really means is that you're there for taking advantage of. There was a lady I knew named Brett, and she once told me that I was the perfect man. No, I'm not. She tried claiming I was the kind of man that every woman wants. Like, no, you don't. You really don't. You just think you do because I'm not attracted to you. It's a conquest thing. Men are not wired any different. Just the way that we go about it is different, and because of social expectations, women have the upper hand. You're not allowed to look her direction, but she's allowed to stick her hand down your pants while you're sleeping. Or allowed to stab you in the butthole with a carrot. And you're supposed to be too embarrassed as a male to come forward about it. Well, that's not right. So the second picture is Caitlin Tatum. Somebody who was a part of a lot of this. A person who dragged her feet. At least she admitted she was a horrible friend. She was a bad friend. The same thing that Aaron Cockerham said, Cara Rogers, and many others. Mandy Hughes. They did apologize for being bad friends, but then they had the opportunity to be better friends, to be actual good friends at that point. And did they? Did they take the opportunity? No, they didn't. And the women, especially the pretty women, the ones who try to dress themselves up as magical fairy princesses or naughty schoolgirls. But, of course, it's the sweet, innocent look. Those are the ones most likely to play victim, but we have taught all women that they can get away with doing nearly anything by just playing victim. You kill your husband for the insurance money and you get busted. Well, the least you can do as a woman is pretend that you were victimized. Meanwhile, the victimization against him, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. No matter how many times he came forward in life, what's the likelihood of them actually taking people to court over that? When Natalie Bollinger was killed, that should have gone to court. They couldn't. Because if they had taken it to court, well, Joseph Michael Lopez would have gotten away free. The cops screwed up that badly in Natalie's case. They created that many civil and human rights violations. Civil and human rights violations that, had they been addressed immediately, instead of me being blown off, could have prevented the death of people like Demetrius Shankling. Could have prevented the death of Natalie Bollinger. Could have closed down Clearview 2 years before it was finally closed down. It would have saved Boulder County a lot of money with Zaid Atkinson and Samuel Leon Lawrence IV. Because people would have recognized how universally horrible this experience is when you are assumed to be homeless. What's the difference between Zaid Atkinson and James? They both dress about the same. James has facial hair. James is older. James is homeless, and James is white. So when the Boulder Police Department harms him, he's not so stupid as to believe that he can stand up to them the way that Samuel Leon Lawrence IV was allowed to do. They assumed he was homeless, and by the time they'd realized they fucked up, their ego was already in the way. And the fact is, Waylon Lolotai, who's darker than Samuel Leon Lawrence IV, showed up with a shotgun to blast the man. Of all of them there, Waylon Lolotai would be the most likely to shoot somebody. If I had been heard, we could have saved millions of dollars in false death suits, false arrest suits. an assault. But no, you wanted me to be the bad guy? The news doesn't listen to homeless people, especially not homeless males. So although a male rapist in a house or a male killer in a house, they tell us, for example, with Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie, you care about that, right? The news media wanted to hear from Brian Laundrie. I was told not to talk to the media, and it turns out that's the biggest mistake I could have made. I should have talked to the media outside of the courthouse and explained what was going on. I should not have taken the advice of Amanda Balehash, who had already shown that she wasn't interested in doing her job. When it came to people going to court, I needed them to go to court to speak up. I needed them to make actual police reports. I needed them to explain to my lawyers what was going on, about their part in it. We could have kept it private. We could have kept it within the courts, within the legal boundaries. But people like Caitlin Tatum didn't care. They were too busy being selfish friends. The last one on there is some messages. And I'm going to zoom those messages in, and I'm going to make that the next video. It's pretty important. A lot of people tried to paint a horrible narrative. No, they had to harm me and threaten to kill my friends and family and physically assault me before I ever did anything as far as screaming for help. I tried to do it diplomatically first. Always.